All right, now we're recording.
You're recording.
Dan's bullshit.
Did you put that on there?
Not yet.
So now you want a story. This is a Halloween story. I asked my grandfather, what day did he get married? 1905. He got married. And I said, the day, So he says, Halloween. I says, what in the world did you pick that day for? So he gets up off the chair on the porch and goes over to the screen door and opens it up. And from there he says, did you ever look at your grandmother? He had the screen door open because from another time I ran in and told what he said. So he figured, he said, go ahead, run in there and tell her what I said. I says, I'm not telling her that. I says, and I got pictures of her, and I says, she's a very attractive girl. I'll show you someday. But I says, all respect to you, grandfather. I says, you are certainly not somebody that I could figure out, how she would want to get married to you. I'm much older than my earlier stories with him. That's my Halloween story.
Now you have to lead into the story that led to that story.
Oh, at the war. That's a pretty good story. I gotta make it short, though.
Make it short, but make it sweet.
Talk about the leaves and everything. Anyway, when the war started, naturally all the people congregated, and this is like 3 days after the war started, that everybody is aware that Hawaii is not part of the United States. Anyway, we're out on the porch, which is where he held court all the time out there. And there's like great uncles out there, So you see, talking about the war, he says, I got a good mind to go in, see Captain Henry. Captain Henry was this guy about 5 foot tall and weighed 300 pounds, and he's in charge of the National Guard, which was absolutely nothing before the war started, and it wasn't for him. It wasn't too much after it started either, because he wanted to get a Jeep and they wouldn't give him one, so he could ride around Greene County, Anyway, he says, I got a good mind to go see Captain Henry. He says, and join up. Now I'm 13 years. Let's say 14. I'm 14 years old, and I figure, after listening to this war stuff all the time, even when my father was alive with the Japanese and all that, I figure, well, he's going to go into the army with as a soldier. So I run into the kitchen where my grandmother is, and I says, Grandpa's going in the war. She didn't pay no attention to me at first. But then I mentioned Captain Henry, who she hated. And he says, yeah, he's going to go see Captain Henry. What has he been telling you? I says, he's going to go in the army. And she went out on that porch, and you could hear her all over, yelling at him. All you got to do is sit out here and get everybody upset over that war. She leveled the Second World War down to a picnic, She's been through the Spanish-American War. And she's listened to that Civil War. She used to say till she was sick of ever hearing another word about it. And she comes back in, and I'm standing there because I know I just set off firecracker by mentioning that. So I'm still in the kitchen. And she comes over, and I tell you, I can feel her hands on my shoulder right now, you know. And she says, "Your grandfather isn't going anywhere," he says. He was 9 months in the army, that's during the Spanish-American War. 6 of it was in the hospital with typhoid fever, and the other 3 was getting in and getting out. And she says, "You're old enough to know, you know, not to pay any attention to a lot of his stories." So that's the end of that story. The reason that he got up this is years later now, when he did this opening of the screen door, but that's where it came from. And he used to tell everybody, you know, if you're sitting in the living room talking, or like, say, when we were over there to Jensen with them people, he would blurt out, "Be careful what you say around Dan, because he'll run right in and tell his grandmother every word you said, word for word for word." We're all older, you know, and I mean, he would do that. That's why he did the Halloween thing. Get up and open the screen door. And when I'm talking years later, I mean, I must have been like in my 30s when I asked him that, what day he was married.
Well, now we have to go into the monkey story.
Oh, my father?
Because that actually is one of my most favorite.
They don't have these people around today. They had these Italian people. Had these organ grinders. And they always had this little monkey wearing different hats, you know. So my father says, and this is during the Depression, and I don't know what he handed him. I know he handed him a paper money, most likely $1. And he says, "Have your son sing Sweet Rosie O'Grady." You know, and all the people are laughing, standing around him. And we start to go away, you know. So I'm tugging on this coat, and I says, "Can't we wait and hear the monkey sing?" And again, the laughter, you know. So the poor organ grinder, he probably figured, "Well, you think my son is a monkey. Your son thinks he can sing." My mother should be here doing this, because she would tell these stories.
Right. Well, I got you telling them.
You got that on the tape?
I'm pretty sure I do.
That wasn't too dragged out, right?
Not at all.
Most of the stories are really